Ann Coulter has written a best-selling nonfiction book, The Church of Liberalism, Godless. Then she talks about liberalism as a religion in order, in a deliciously ironic way, to have liberalism cast out of the public school system as an expression of separation of church and state. But does she prove that liberalism is a church? I think not. She understands that most liberals actually do believe in God, and many of them belong to one Christian denomination or another. She just says that their policies, their cosmology, their ideology is ultimately godless and doesn't allow God to erupt into the public sector where it needs to be if we're not to have a hellish society here on earth. Now, Ann Coulter is a polemicist. She writes well and she writes viciously. She attacks the ideas of her opponents and she also attacks her opponents. This is what makes her a best-selling writer. And what makes me someone who will never be on the New York Times best-selling list. I would nuance things so well and so completely that I'd put anyone to sleep on any topic. But Ann Coulter writes with a passion, the passion of her convictions, and she has a take-no-prisoner style. This book, however, covers some of the major issues of our time: crime and punishment, abortion, the public education system of our nation, the state of the sciences in the world, and the notion of freedom of speech and how it's used by both the liberals and the conservatives. This book is powerful. I would object to a lot of the elements in the book and not in agreement with others. But isn't that what a good book is about? To get us thinking and to get us involved in the issues that confront us. Many of the things in the book I have known for years. And I had to keep reminding myself that these issues are old hat to me, but many people have forgotten them or being introduced to them for the first time. So it is educational in that sense. Younger people probably never heard of Willie Horton or the political ad that sunk Governor Dukakis in his run for presidency. Others haven't heard of Piltdown Man, that classic fraud in paleontology that took place in the 1920s and stumped the experts for decades. Many haven't really heard of the excesses of liberal sexual education that has wormed its way into some schools in some incidences. It's all there. Some haven't really paid any attention to the evolutionist, creationist debate that is a part of the fabric of contemporary society and don't know what intelligence design is. All of these elements are covered in her book. It's hard sometimes to exaggerate the importance of any given book. This is going to be a bestseller this summer, probably be forgotten in a few years. But we should read this book with an open mind and a critical sense as well. When she came to the chapter on public education, she opined that public school teachers are praised universally, both in pop culture and in the liberal sector of our society. And then she goes to begin into demolishing the myths of the perfect public school teacher. And in the midst of that, she brings up the scandal of sexual abuse by priests of minors and children, something that's really close to my heart. She treats the sexual abuse scandal in one paragraph. I wish she would have given it at least 3. And in it she says, well, there were 10,000 victims reported by the bishops of the United States over a 50-year period. And that is an accurate figure. And she says, let's multiply that by 4, just to account for the unreported figures, the unreported victims. I thought, with friends like this, who needs enemies? And after that one paragraph, then, she goes on to report on a very important report that came from the government by Professor Shakeshaft of Hofstra University that shows tens of thousands of instances of sexual misconduct and abuse in the public school system. And she said, even if we quadruple the numbers of abuse by Catholic priests in the United States, the public school system would have 32 times more cases than that. And she said no one cares about it because the media reported on it within a week and then promptly forgot about it. The teachers' unions, the boards of education attacked the report rather than attack the problem. I think she should have spent more time on this all-important issue. And the comparisons between the priest and the public school system is somewhat out of kilter because over that 50-year period there were 110,000 priests. How many school teachers are there? How many millions and millions of more children are there? So we have to have much more clear statistics in this area. 1% of the 110,000 priests, much to my disgust, were true pedophiles abusing prepubescent children. Another 3% went after adolescents, teenagers, much to my personal revulsion. 95% of us, thank God, had nothing to do with it. But all of us are tainted by it. And for all those who are really concerned about children, the report from John Jay College on clerical abuse should be read, and also Professor Shakeshaft's report should be read in its entirety. But she treats all of the elements in her book that way very quickly. Capital punishment, of course it should be there. Atomic energy, yes, we need it. The evolutionary scientist, true, they're narrow-minded and won't let any other opinions be offered. All of these things come one right after another in the book, making for exciting reading, but perhaps inaccurate and misleading as well, which is at the heart of any polemic work. She is noted for her exaggerations of phrase. She says at one point in the book, well, our current fascination with physical beauty of our celebrities is more grotesque than Hitler's concern with the Aryan ideal. No, it's not, Anne. The Aryan ideal led to the near extermination of the Jews of Europe. It plunged the world into a war as the Nazis tried to get living space for their Aryan beauties in the East. There's no comparison. Our fascination with celebrity beauty is simply silly, but not grotesque. But she has many such phrases. Yet these phrases sell books. These phrases keep our attention. We keep saying, what's she going to say next? She attacks not only the ideals of liberalism, but she attacks people that proclaim those ideals. I find that a little hard to stomach. But 90% of the book is issue-driven. Maybe 10% of the book is attacks on individuals. Now that sounds pretty horrible. But in the political arena in general today, I would see 90% of the political debate seems to be personal assassination and only 10% issue-driven. But now we come to the question is this book reliable as a resource book? She has 19 pages of footnotes. As you go through the footnotes, you'll find that many of them are to newspaper articles, which is fine. It's a common way to document what you're saying and to research and find out what's going on in the world. But in the case of Ann Coulter, she has spent most of her public career attacking the reliability of the media and attacking the reliability of newspapers in general. So relying on them to document her own book, well, that seems a little out of kilter, doesn't it? And on top of that, she'll many times quote the New York Times. Now, in the book, she's many times are quoting editorials which she finds outlandish. And so that's understandable. But at other times, she just quotes the Times or other liberal papers to back up what she's saying about one scientist, one teacher, one situation or another. Do we know those things to be true simply because they're reported in the newspaper? Anne has warned us against such naivete for years. So should we accept it? Should we accept these secondary sources as gospel? Who knows? Now, some of the footnotes, if they were checked out, will prove to be accurate. That's what this paper said or that paper said. But is what this paper or that paper said actually the case? It's a big question mark. And sometimes when you check out a footnote in anyone's book that's writing polemically, you'll find, yes, this was said in source A or source B, but it's taken out of context. A classic trick of all polemicists. So we have to be very cautious with what we read in this book. Nevertheless, this book stimulates thought, stimulates debate. And we should take the issues raised here very seriously because they are issues of life and death for individuals and also life and death for the culture as a whole. And how we answer these questions will determine whether we will have hell on earth or a more just, stable, and free society. It's up to all of us. God bless you. And God bless all those who are sincerely seeking the truth and trying to live it as best they can in this world.